Your main intent for a bug out bag is, for some reason, you're going to have to travel on foot from the point you're at. Could be, something as simple as after a hurricane, the grid's down. If a Category 5 storm were to roll through our area, you could be a few weeks before help got to you, especially if you live in a more rural section. And things might be bad enough where you're at that you need to pack up and go, back into town, get to a neighbor's house, whatever the case may be. Worst case scenario, they talk about the grid going down, whatever. But whatever the reason, you can't safely stay where you're at anymore, you need to leave. Well, you might need to leave in a hurry, and that's the big thing about a bug out bag. Your items that you need to keep you alive and safe, FEMA likes to say 72 hours for an emergency kit. 72 hours isn't a very long time, that's 3 days. I tend to think more in terms of weeks and months if you had to. You can't carry months worth of food, you can't carry months worth of water, but you can carry months worth of pretty much everything else, with maybe the exception of toilet paper, which is one of those things you're going to want to have in your bug out bag because it's kind of nice to have. What I recommend when it comes to a bug out bag, buy the things you're going to put in it first, then decide on the bag. And everybody's things are different. What's really important to you, there's core items you kind of need to have, and it's on the list we've got here. And number one, the one thing we all need to keep us alive is water. So what I've done with this particular bag,
it's Camelback.
Yeah, 100-ounce Camelback inside the bag. 100 ounces, it's enough that if I didn't have to do any cooking and it was just me, I could live for about 3 days off of it. But you're going to need more water than that. So a water purifier, some people use iodine. Iodine, I can't stomach the flavor in the water. It really makes me gacky. We use a water purifier. It's just a pump. You can buy multiple different models. I recommend you pre-strain your water before you use the pump. Pour it through a bandana or whatever, because your pump will last a lot longer. Those filters will clog up really bad. So water's your big one. And then we're talking about food. I don't have food with me because food is a very individual thing. MREs do pack real easy. 5 or 6 MREs in there are going to carry you for a couple days. I have an advantage in that I have a partner that I would probably bug out with, and we share the load. Her bug out bag is identical to this, only it's just a digital camouflage. So we can kind of split our things up a little bit. We don't all have to carry 2 of the same things. But food, freeze-dried food works. It's expensive, but it's very light. It does work really well. If you're going to do that, you're going to have a means by which you can cook your food. And let's see where we got it in here. Super simple. You can make a stove out of soda cans, alcohol. The thing burns hot. This is what we go backpacking with, and it's really lightened our load. I mean, you can see it weighs literally an ounce. The stoves you buy, by the time you get fuel and everything else with a canister, they're north of 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds. Just quick ways to lighten your load. And if you needed to, you could make one of these on the fly. If something happens and this got squashed, they're not that hard to make.
You pass it around?
Absolutely. Go ahead. Clothing's a big one. Clothing takes up a lot of space in a hurry, so you need to shop smart. And you want to keep your clothes dry. Dry clothes are important. Staying dry is a lifesaver. If you get cold and wet, you're in trouble. So a nice waterproof bag. Some people call them seal bags. They just clamp and roll down. It keeps the water out. Some of the clothes I like to bring are a pair of rain pants. They serve double duty as just long pants when I need them. A lightweight rain jacket, same thing. Try and pick subdued colors for the things you buy. A lot of stuff you buy is going to be, real bright colors. Just some lots of extra socks, underwear, gloves, hat. You'd be amazed, it sounds kind of weird, but silk long johns, they add an amazing amount of heat and they don't weigh anything. I keep a little lightweight vest and this is really all the same stuff I bring backpacking, so it's been tested, it works. We kind of have a system we've worked on. That vest doesn't weigh much, but it adds a whole lot of core warmth when I need it. And then I've got more extra socks, a kind of a heavier long sleeve shirt, and just one light shirt to change into. You do want dry stuff to sleep in, obviously. And getting into sleeping, and the other thing I carry is a little heavier jacket.
Ventilation.
Yeah, and it's Gore-Tex, so it doesn't get soaked inside, because once again, getting wet is your enemy. A small, lightweight sleeping bag. You don't need a lot. We're in Florida. If you were in New Hampshire, and in the White Mountains, you better have a heavier bag. But down here, even in the middle of the worst winter, I'm okay with this lightweight bag. Doesn't weigh much. I keep a mosquito net on top because for this purpose, I'm not carrying a tent. I just don't really have the space in the room. But that bag doesn't take up much space. It's good to 40 degrees. I'll put the mosquito net over my face, and then I use an emergency blanket as a ground cloth. I lay it out, put the bag on the ground cloth, wrap the blanket over it, and then it's kind of brightly colored. I'll pull pine needles over it or whatever I got to do. So just and that adds for some thermal factor too. So you get pretty comfortable in a hurry, and you'd be surprised in a bad situation how quickly you're appreciating things. Self-defense, obviously, some personal skills, some weapons. Commonly available rounds. I should be able to get them if I need them. Hopefully that would never come to that, but if it does, you've got it. Communications. Ham radio is optimal. If you and I already kind of have a pre-established network, some FRS handheld radios with a pre-plan for what frequency. She and I both have a handheld FRS. We know what frequency we're going to go to if for some reason we get separated. They're good for about 5 miles. But if you really want to reach out and touch somebody, you need ham. And that, you require an FCC license to run it. It can get pricey, but there are some handheld models that you can run a whip antenna to that will really go out there.
Can I add something to the ham? It's only $15 to take the test, and I have the book. So it's funny that you mentioned that because I'm in the process of doing that.
Awesome.
So we could get a group together. It would just be $15 per person. It's not expensive to do that part. The radios can get pricey, yes. But as far as ham, all you need to do is just study the book, and then it's great because we won't have cell phones.
Right.
So that's a great, I like that.
It's an awesome idea. And when you talk about cell phones, I have seen bug out bag lists that include cell phone and charger. No. Maybe
Alarm
not,
clock.
but I'm sure not going to count on it.
Yeah.
Tools vary from person to person. I really recommend a Leatherman tool. It does most of the things you're going to want to do. I also carry on the front of my pack both a combat knife. I prefer a folding combat knife just because it's a little easier for me and safer, but it's a very safe combat tactical knife that has dual locks. Your normal lock won't close it. It just saves your fingers in case something were to happen. So you have to hit the safety, hit the lock, and then close the knife. It's fairly light. It's very utilitarian. You can never have enough flashlights. I carry 3, using 2 different types of batteries. Like this, and one of my other lights uses the short, fat 123 or 321 batteries. But I've also got a small Pelican light that just uses AA's in case I need it.
And with a cellular radio, where you crank it, and
Yep.
it's small. It's only about this big, about that wide. Just crank it.
That's a solar flashlight. Just lay it in the sun for a few minutes, and it's not going to blind anybody,
Nice.
but it's handy light.
Ooh, I like that.
So I don't need batteries. Matches. If you can find old film canisters, because nobody uses film anymore, but they make a great match canister. You just buy the box of matches, cut the striker strip out of it, and stick it in there with the matches, and you've kind of got go anywhere matches. They're pretty waterproof. But you can't count on your matches, so a flint and steel.
Sure.
Very important to have. Because fire, secondary to water, fire is probably your second biggest friend. You're gonna, and you want to think tactically about your fire. You don't want a roaring bonfire. Nice small fire, something you can cook over and dry clothes over. More matches. The ability to see what's going on around you. This is a personal one. You may or may not want binoculars. You might get away with something smaller like a monocular, but I prefer a good pair of binoculars. I want to know what's going on a mile down the road, and that might save me from walking into a situation that I really don't want to be in. Some of the stuff, and like I said, this isn't complete, but I do keep my my spare mags. I've got 3 30-round AR mags that I emptied from ammo for this purpose. But I also keep a 20-round AR mag that I load with lead tip for hunting. If a deer happens to wander in front of me, you don't want to shoot a deer with a full metal jacket bullet because it's probably not going to put him down right away, but if you can hit him with a lead tip, you've just acquired dinner for a few days or however long you need it. You can never have enough twine, rope. Stuff comes in very handy for a lot of reasons. The first aid kit that I carry has gotten smaller over the years. It used to be really big. It was too much. In all honesty, we never used most of it. Kind of decide for yourselves what you need in a first aid kit. But basic first aid supplies, and you're going to be surprised. You can improvise. Feminine hygiene products are amazing dressings. I mean, it's what they're designed to do. So on the run, if you run out of what you need, you can improvise. But in the meantime, I do recommend a basic small first aid kit and bring along some painkillers, personal comfort. You know, the way the 4 of us feel today is probably going to be the way you're going to feel for weeks on end in a survival situation. Sure is nice to pop a couple of leave and be able to say, oh, at least I can sleep tonight. You know, things like that. Hygiene's a huge one. There's not going to be any dentists if you have to bug out. Toothbrush, toothpaste, dental floss. You're going to feel a lot better about yourself, and you sure don't want to be like Tom, what was his name? Tom Hanks on the island with the ice skate. Yeah, I don't want that. So, but you kind of got to make it yours. You know, you do what you got to do. You know, we carry some N95 masks. Might be a pandemic. That may be what causes us to have to bail out and head somewhere else, because it might be a horrible pandemic that starts in South Florida and works its way north, and it's time to go. The roads may be packed. Well, I may be driving out, but my car breaks down. It's time to grab that and continue on. But an N95 mask, they're made by 3M. They block all kinds of small particulates. They're good for really about a few weeks before they're not really usable anymore. It would stink to have to wear that all the time, but it would stink a lot worse to end up with, you know, some kind of virulent strain of flu or something. So, you know, little stuff we just don't think about. Spare magazines for my Glock. Right in the very top pocket where I can get to it in a hurry, I do keep an extra flashlight. Just, you know, little stuff. And you kind of got to work with, you know, like I said, design it for yourself and figure out what it is you want to use, what you're going to need, and go from there. And if you have a partner, like I said, split up the load. You don't need to carry 2 stoves. You don't need to carry 2 water purifiers. The odds are good she and I could be split up when the situation starts, but we have pre-designated meeting points. So she knows. You know. So, but that's the basics of a bug out bag. And you can buy the stuff, it's called Heat, is the best choice. And you can buy it at any auto supply shop. There's 2 kinds. There's one comes in a yellow jug and one comes in a red jug. You don't want the red stuff. The red stuff burns funny, it creates a lot of soot, mess it up. You want the stuff in the yellow jug. It's like I said, it's called Heat. And what it is, it's you put it in your fuel or in your carburetor, and it helps to get water out of the fuel, and it will help you get your vehicle started, is basically what it's intended to do. I've got this figured out where 1 ounce of heat in this guy, and it burns for about 8 minutes. I can, over this little bitty cheap 39-cent handmade stove, I can boil a quart of water in about 4 minutes. So it takes it a couple minutes to come up, get it to a boil. And all I do is I take my pot, and I've got a little aluminum pot, And I made, out of, the cheap blue foam sleeping pads, took an old one of those, and I made what's called a cozy that the pot sits down inside. And all I do is after I take the pot off the stove, I stick it down inside that cozy, put the lid on, and set it aside. And the food will, because the water was boiling, it continues to cook. You can do red beans and rice, like the Zatarain's red beans and rice. They don't weigh anything, and you get a whole meal. All you've done is bring water to a boil and set it aside. And in about 30 minutes, you're eating hot red beans and rice.
Pasta.
Yeah.
I
We
put
make
a-
trail spaghetti, we do all kinds of stuff.
I put a lot of stuff inside the can, that I was gonna boil stuff in,
Mhm.
so I'd have like all kinds of stuff, just save space.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
I keep a little rag we keep for cleaning out the pots and everything that gets rolled up in there.
Yeah.
I've got a little aluminum shield that I made that just folds up, pull it apart and flip it around. Because if it's windy, these don't work that well. So you want to put a little shield around the pot and around this, so that you just leave a gap where you can see in there and make sure it's doing what it needs to do, but it keeps the wind off. It heats up faster, everything tends to work quicker.
And it's just as light as the can.
Sweet.
Other little things, lifesavers, duct tape. You don't want to carry the whole roll, so what I did is I take the inside of a pen and wrap the duct tape around it. And now you've got a little handy, chunk of duct tape, which comes in, really handy for a lot of reasons.
For your feet.
And, there are other things that it's a work in progress. Sometimes I'll take some things out and say, I'd rather have this instead of that, because you just run out of room. When this is fully loaded with water, all the items you see here, and food, and I've got ammo in all the magazines, you're knocking on the door of 50-plus pounds.
Wow.
And I just don't want much more than that on
That's a
me
lot of ammo.
when I head out. Well, the water and the food probably adds the most, but yeah, I've got 130 rounds of AR ammo and another 35 rounds of 40 Smith & Wesson. So, I mean, it adds up. But listen, guys, the term prepper sometimes has a negative connotation. You see it on TV, they make preppers sound and look crazy. You know what, if I never use this, so what? But if the day comes when I have to have it, I'd sure rather have it than think, man, I wish I'd put together a